we are live.
We are live. I'm here, Chris Brown. I'm joined by my guy, Zack Poff.
There you go, baby. You got
MaxPreps.com. However you may be joining us, welcome in. Zach, tons of more great recruiting information. Yeah. We're talking coaches this year. Lots of interesting stuff.
Yeah, and it's cool. We'll bring on Lateral Sports, Tom Bleymaier on to talk about that. And it's crazy. I mean, we see a lot of coaching changes, and we got the data to prove it. Les Miles, LSU, perfect example.
Never safe.
He was at LSU for 12 years, didn't go off to a hot start this year.
Hey,
he's gone.
Look, I know people love hearing from us, but enough of us.
Yeah.
Let's bring in our guy, Tom Bleymaier, the expert, the one and only. Tom, talk to us, buddy. What do we got this week?
Coaching histories and win-loss histories at every college in the country. So the head coach at the school that you choose to go to is going to play a big part in your experience there. And head coaching changes happen all the time. So we wanted to look at the numbers and the likelihood that you're still playing for the same coach as a senior that you commit to as a freshman. And also in the guide, we want to show you which schools have new coaches, which schools have very long tenured coaches. Sometimes those specific pieces of information can change where you look. For example, knowing who has a first-year coach can be a good place to target if you're looking for a school that's going to have a clean slate, or if you're a transfer looking for a school that might be changing systems. Longest tenured coaches, we'll look at some of that data. Also an interesting way to target, playing at a program that has a great tradition and great history.
Yeah, and you guys keep dropping us comments. Yeah. We're going to be checking them out. We'll do our best to get to them. If we don't, I guarantee you, me or ZP will get to them off air.
Yeah.
But, Zach, it's interesting because a lot of times kids get to college, and maybe it's not exactly what the coach had promised, or the roster's deeper, or the competition's stiff, and they don't end up staying there all 4 years, or maybe they're only there 2, or transfers are big.
Yeah, and we're not just talking about guys that aren't getting playing time. We've seen this with guys like Baker Mayfield, for example, one of the front runners for the Heisman, finished in the top 4 last year. Originally at Texas Tech, played there for a year, but didn't like how things were going with Cliff Kingsbury in his first year there. Ended up transferring to Oklahoma. Ricky Town was at USC, then went to Arkansas, another good example. And a guy balling for Bill Belichick and the Patriots, Jacoby Brissett, originally at Florida, didn't get the job, ended up going to NC State. So we see this all the time. Now, we'll bring Tom in once again, just kind of talk about on, the likelihood, the probability, an average length that a coach stays, not just at a football program, but, soccer, volleyball, and all the other sports too.
Yeah, this data is interesting, not just for football, obviously, but for every other sport. There's hundreds of coaching changes each year, and it's really hard to keep track of that if you're a parent or a kid who's got other things to worry about. 20% of FBS teams have a new coach in any given following season. That's dating back to 2000. At all divisions in college football, it's a 15% chance that any given school will have a first-year coach, a new coach next year. Season. If you're a senior, what this means is a lot of seniors who have chosen where they want to go play, 1 in 5 of them might have a coaching change before they even get to the college. So really interesting information to know. Like I said, we'll pinpoint some of the specific schools with these first-year coaches. I think if you look at the other sports there, you see a little bit of a difference with D1 programs and D2 and D3 in soccer and volleyball, where in volleyball and soccer, the D1 coaches have a lot more staying power, and D2 and D3 coaches tend to leave more often. And I would submit that one of the reasons for that is some of those non-football programs in Division 2 or Division 3 are less funded and probably places where coaches might be moving jobs a little more often. Whereas in Division 1 with so much money, Division 1 football, so much money involved in that coach's salary, and obviously a lot of pressure, you see the highest percentage of changes in D1 FBS.
Yeah, Tom, and if Spurl, if you could just leave this graphic up here for a little bit. Zach, it's really interesting to look when you look at D1 FBS and you see 22% of D1 FBS schools have a first-year coach.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's kind of interesting because D2 and D3 are lower, but that just shows in D1 FBS, it's big time. It's win or go.
Hey,
it's win or your job, man.
There's a lot of pressure, and another factor too is there could be some coaches at the lower level D1 schools that are doing well, so then they also get promoted and take over at a big name school.
And another metric that popped up that we thought was really cool with Tom's data was when we look, this proves it right here. There's a lot of turnover, and so coaches are completely carouseling. So Zach, I know you had some stuff you want to talk about, maybe about fit or that kind of thing.
Yeah, and talking about first-year head coaches, I mean, a guy that jumps right off is Mark Richt. Did a very good job at Georgia, but just couldn't win the big games. Fell short against Alabama year in and year out. Now he's down in South Florida at the U at Miami, and hey, they're 3-0 this year, number 14 in the top 25.
Seems to be doing all right.
And the thing that caught my eye is he's doing it with the same guys that were there before he got there. Brad Kyle, a former stud back in Southern California in high school. Mark Walton, a big-time playmaker at Booker T. Washington, still doing things there. And Joseph Yearby. Now, Tom, let's bring you back in, too. I kind of want to talk about the positive and negative effects that a new coach could have on these players. Within Miami, it's been good, but a lot of other schools, it doesn't end up so well with these same athletes.
Yeah, certainly. I think, Mark Richt is a great example. He's had a great coaching history in the past. And so when you see a new coach and it's Mark Richt, he's probably going to be able to make do with whatever players he has on his roster. And so one of the reasons in the guide we show not just this current year head coach, but also the last 5 years of the head coaching history. So you can see, and the win-loss history. So you can see whether the program was declining in win-loss percentage and maybe had a coaching change for a firing, or if they were increasing and doing so well that the coach got hired away, but the program is really strong. So knowing where coaches have been in the past is a really important factor to see, what type of experience you're getting from the coach that you sign up to play for.
And also, too, as you see the list here, CB, I got to ask you, though. I'm a USC guy. Is Clay Helton going to make it to the second year?
Hey, I'm gonna let them determine that one on the field. But some big-time names here.
Yeah, Lovie Smith.
There's a lot of...
Will Muschamp. Rocco Mendenhall from BYU to Virginia.
We mentioned Rick. There's just a lot of good names here that kind of almost get recycled. And it's really interesting to see how it affects where kids want to go, the recruiting and, okay, am I going to fit in this guy's system? Am I not going to fit in this guy's system? And, one other cool thing we wanted to look at here was there's a couple guys. Spurl, if you could pull up that tenured graphic, that'd be great. Look at these guys.
Bill Snyder.
These guys have been at these schools forever, and you can't tell me this does not plan if kids want to go to this school. And you look at a guy like Bill Snyder, he's at Kansas State for 24 years.
Yeah,
24 years.
If we could, too, Spurl, let's pull up the graphic of the 3 years where Bill Snyder was not at Kansas State. And the 3 years show that Bill Snyder really is a major player when it comes to Kansas State's win-loss record. The 3 years he wasn't there, they weren't winning those games. And if we could just bring in Chris Brown's laptop, and that should have the graphic on there. But there it is right there. You'll see the little blue line there in the middle between the yellow. Those were the 3 years Bill Snyder actually wasn't there. And that just shows you the effect that a coach can have on a program. Now, let's bring Tom back in. How important is it for these kids, when they have that comfort with those coaches being there with them for so long?
Yeah, those two coaches, Chris Ault and Bill Snyder, are great examples because they actually left the same program and came back. And so that graph is really meant to just say, if you think head coaching doesn't matter, think again. It's going to have a huge impact on the program. That being said, as we've been talking about, the chances a freshman has a coaching change before they are a senior is 49% at Division I the last 5 years. So, it's almost as likely you'll have a new coach as the coach that you sign up to play for. And what that means to me is if I'm a high school kid looking at where I want to play, I should go somewhere where it's not completely about the coach. Choose a place you want to be in case there is a coaching change. The freshman to senior year is only 3 years. That's not even taking into account if you redshirt or the fact that a lot of kids choose where they're going maybe junior or senior year in high school. So the chances that you're going to have involvement with multiple coaches is really high. Another aspect of kind of predicting not just saying like, okay, who's the new coach this year, or who's the longest tenured coach. We went back and looked at the last 25 years of win-loss records and coaching data to try to find an indicator of when does it happen the most, right? We all know that, if a coach is losing several years in a row, he might be on the hot seat. So to kind of better define hot seat with more data, it's kind of intuition that a coach is given 3 years typically to get their system in there. When a coach has a losing record after year 3, there's a 40% chance they're gone that year, 65% chance they're gone within 1 year, and 85% chance they don't make it 2 more years. So to put that into easier terms to think about, if you're a senior in high school, if you have, since 2000, seniors that have committed to a place to play where the coach had a losing record past year 3, they had a new coach by the end of their sophomore year in college. And that's where it comes back to giving information to the parents so they're have more expectations, better expectations about what is going to happen in this college experience, right? I've talked to parents that were like, man, we didn't even think about it, but our son transferred. It cost us an extra year of tuition. That was $20,000. We didn't even think that the coach leaving was possible because he told us not to worry about that. Whereas if you look at the data since 2000, you kind of could have said, well, there was an 85% chance of that happening. So having the data can really help you be aware of that and potentially save a transfer year or a whole year of tuition.
And that graphic right there, if we could bring that back up real quick, Sproul, was that just really shows you the percentages. I mean, you look at that, the likelihood of freshmen in 2012 or 2013 had a different head coach at the school 3 years later. Almost 50-50. And that's in FBS and FCS. And all divisions is 40%. So the turnover rate is crazy.
And I think it's really cool that Tom talks about this affects more than just the sport. You're looking at tuition,
it affects the family,
changing schools, and when you change schools, you have to sit out years. So really cool information here, just and really cool for the kids and parents and coaches to see, okay, where can I best place my kids, or where should I be looking to go where there's basically going to be some stability.
Now, hey, Chris Brown and Tom, this for you too. Now I know why all these kids are committing to Ohio State, because all Urban Meyer does is win. It makes sense now.
And Nick Saban's really good at that too. Yeah. But hey,
the longest tenured list is a really cool one.
Yeah.
The top 20 or so coaches on that list are actually at Division II, Division I FCS, D3 schools. East Stroudsburg. Dennis Dowds has been there 43 years.
I was about to say, some of the other lists had over 30 years coaching. I mean, that is a long time.
Yeah, and an interesting thing about that is the top 18 longest tenured coaches in all divisions have had a 5-year win percentage above 500. So basically, it's kind of intuitive that if they've been there 30 years, they're doing a good job. They've built a good program. But the proof is, all of them are still winning, and it makes it an easy, maybe an easy indicator to say, okay, I want to go to a good program. I want to go to a great Division III program with a lot of, support, a great head coach. Sorting by the coaches that have been there the longest at the D2 and D3 levels, which you can do with the guide, can help you pick that out pretty quickly.
And also, too, I want to give a shout out to Duke on chat. Mike Gundy, Oklahoma State University. The only reason I want to say that is because I'm 40. I'm a man. One of the best rants I've ever seen.
Hey, and it's really cool, because Tom, you were talking about winning percentages and stuff like this, and I know Les Miles is kind of the example right now, but talk about a great winning percentage. He was at school for 12 years and still on to the next. I mean, maybe that's just SEC football.
SEC, yeah.
But, hey, lots of great stuff this week. That's all we got. We'll get to your comments online. Tom, thank you a ton for jumping on with us. We'll be back next week. More awesome recruiting stuff. That's it. And this is America's source for high school sports.